and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Angel. You may be seated. All right, to begin the evening, we have the Board of School Trustees Resolution of Accommodation Awards. 2.1 is the Crown Point High School 2021-22 Latin Club for being named the overall state champion at the 22 Indiana Junior Classical League State Convention. We'll go through the individuals when we call them up to receive their commendation. And we have 2.2, Crown Point High School Girls Gymnastics Team for being named the 2022 IHSAA Indiana State Champions. We'll also go through those team members when we bring them forward. Do we have a motion to approve the commendations as presented? Moved by Mr. Babjack, second by Mr. Smith. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. And before we move forward, I will mention that we have Mr. Hoffman joining us via Zoom this evening. Tom, I believe you're aware that with the emergency order expiring that, thank you for joining us, but your votes will not count. So when we, okay, in case anyone questioned why my count was a 4-0 or whatever may come forward. So, all right. Let's start with Latin Club. Mr. Smith is going to read and hand over the commendation. Ms. Green, if there's room, would we like to invite the gymnastics to stay on a sidewall, or if they'd like to?
Well, it's my honor to handle the accommodation for the Latin Club. I see a few faces. I know we've been in this situation before, Coach, and what an honor it is to have you back. I think this is maybe the 19th, perhaps the 20th year in a row that Crown Point High School has won the Latin Club state championship for large corporations, or large schools. So that's an amazing, amazing feat. I would say that sets the precedent for everything we do in our school corporation. They're all chasing you, so you should be proud of yourselves. Before I announce the names of the students and the coaches, I'll read the accommodation, and then I'll ask Coach to make some comments. So, the Crown Point Board of School Trustees is honored to commend the 2021-2022 Crown Point High School Latin Club for meritorious achievement. Be it hereby resolved that the Board of School Trustees for the Crown Point Community School Corporation wishes to express sincere congratulations to the 2021-22 Crown Point High School Latin Club for being named overall state champions, winning the sweepstakes trophy, placing first in the Helen Wampler Spirit Award, first for the Sharon Gibson Community Service Award, and first for T-shirt design at the Indiana Junior Classical League State Convention. Trustees publicly recognize this achievement and renders it permanently to its minutes to be preserved for public posterity this 21st day of March 2022. When I call your name, if you want to come forward, and we will honor you with a certificate. So Vincent Baldi, congratulations. Thank you. Jacqueline Bozanovsky. And if I mispronounce a name, I apologize in advance. This is not the easiest of rosters. Nick Collier. Congratulations. Abigail Godson. Tristan Grady. Samantha Apima. Gracie Kinda. Congratulations. Gibson Merle. Congratulations. Logan Pauley. Congratulations. Colton Neal. Luke Sherman. Congratulations. Hayden Smith. Congratulations. Anna Soups? No, tell me, what is this? Supes. Sorry. Megan Zipak? No, what is it? Tell me what it is. Zipak? Spack, excuse me, thank you. Madeline Thunberg. Congratulations. Jackson Vrillick. Rachel Wallen. Congratulations. Ella Wrigley. Congratulations. Coach Jeremy Walker. Coach Ryan Collier. And Coach Angela Taraskevich. I checked before. Was I close? All right. Well, again, congratulations. This is no small task in order. So congratulations on your state championship. I know it takes great effort to be a state champion and great work. And as much as the achievement of winning and success, as we always discuss in these board meetings, the character that goes along with that of the individual means just as much to us. So I know you guys perform academically, you perform in your community, you perform at the school, and you make your school corporation proud. So thank you for doing that, and congratulations again. I'm going to ask Mr. Walker to give some statements. I know just a comment about this particular team, and having been here before, I know you're accustomed to this, but also I'd like you to take a moment and just explain what the process of being a state champion is in the Latin Club, and how do you get there?
Mr. Walker, we're going to ask you to step to the microphone, if you would. Thank you.
We'll see if this works. So our state competition has a lot of different components to it. And on the student side, there are 3 separate sections. There are academic tests, graphic arts, and creative arts. So there are 2 different testing sessions, and one of the keys to our success is we tell our students they have to take at least 7 tests, and the unofficial word is take as many as you can take. And what they don't know going into it is that they will always stack up competitively against the rest of the state, because with Ms. Taraskevich teaching first and second year, me teaching third year, and Mr. Collier teaching AP, I know that they're getting quality instruction in all aspects of the ancient world through all 4 years. They don't always know that because they have their own little world, and until they get out there and start competing against others, then they realize that they're getting some top-notch education here in Crown Point. The other thing, because we know that convention will mean more to them if they have, some skin in the game, we ask them to do so many graphic arts or so many creative arts or a mixture of them. And so they brought some of their graphic arts with them today. It's any of the artwork. You go hold those up and show them some of your amazing things. This bow is out of PVC. In case you were wondering how amazing that was, it looks like wood. That's melted PVC that is made. It has astounded me since we did our individual meetings on that. And Gracie, how did that place? This was first. Yeah,
I can't handle PVC piping, let alone.
Right, yeah. And then the other competition is creative arts, and I won't put anyone on the spot and say, go ahead and do your performance, but they do Latin speeches, they do acting in Latin. Anything that you might find in a speech and debate or theater program is here, but in the Latin world, either in Latin or around themes of the ancient world. And so they take all these competitions, they practice, they meet individually with Ms. Taraskevich and I to prepare and get some more coaching, and then we do one last show and tell the Wednesday before we go and compete. And they get to show off and see amazing things like that. And then when there's project viewing at convention, they get to see, wow, we had a lot of these top 3 stickers on our projects. So for the top 5 placings in any of those individual competitions, we get sweepstakes points. We also get points for our chapter entries, like our t-shirt in the t-shirt contest, the scrapbook that they do, our service project that we've done all year long, and all of our other activities that we do through the year. And the students actually help put together those applications, those portfolios, so they're the ones really responsible for getting those chapter results. When you add that all together, that's what puts us into first place and tends to do it year after year after year, different people, different group, but the expectation is be involved, do your best, and every year the new group of students rise to the bar. we never know whether it's going to hit it or not, especially after COVID. Things have been a little rough. Our numbers are a little smaller, but 18 students went from Crown Point and managed to outscore schools with 31 and numbers like that, because they believe that if they're going to do it, they should do their best. And so we're very proud of them with all that they've done and all that they've achieved, and I hope that they had a fantastic time doing it. I know they did, because I saw their faces. I saw them talking to their friends from around the state. It's one of the best things I do, is getting to take them to this and other competitions and seeing them meet other people like them around the state and nation. So thank you.
Well, I hope I didn't reveal some trade secrets there that continue your success by asking you to explain your successes, but congratulations. Principal Marcinek, do you want to have a word?
Yeah, I'd love to. I just want to thank Coach Walker, Coach Collier, and Coach Terskavich.
Come up to the microphone, please.
I'd like to thank Coach Walker, Coach Terskavich, and Coach Collier for their effort with our students. And one thing about our coaches is that they're very active in the State Latin Association. They're on all the boards. They're very active as far as making Latin a positive experience, not only for our students, but for students across the state of Indiana. And of course, they've managed to create the most dominant program in the state of Indiana right here in Crown Point, which we're very happy about. So thank you to our coaches for all of your efforts. Now I want to get to the students. So I want to let everybody know that back in February, we hosted a Latin regional competition. And it was at our school, and I felt like, you know what, I really want to go watch our Latin club compete here, because I had never been to a Latin club competition. And I was amazed at what I was able to see there. And it kind of just was, I wanted to share it with you guys. So imagine, for those here that never been to one, what I saw was almost like a game show, kind of like of a theater, sort of, where you had a moderator in the front, like I'm standing here, then you had a Crown Point team, and then you had another team, like one of our adversaries was sitting, another team was sitting at a different table. And there was, what I witnessed was the moderator asking 3 types of questions. One was just about the language, okay, like a series of questions about the Latin language. For instance, how to conjugate a verb in Latin, which of course isn't an easy thing, but these guys knew it just no problem. Boom, they were just on it, answering these questions about the language. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's impressive, right? This is the first time I've ever seen this, but they're just, and they use sort of like a buzzer, all right? So that they would ask a question and then beep, and they'd get the answer. And then they would be able, like 3 people on a team could talk with each other and come up with the final answer. Well, then they would ask about the classic stories, okay? So think like the Iliad and the Odyssey and all these different classic stories about the characters and the plot and what exactly happened in these stories. And these kids were just unbelievable and just beep, I know this, and these complicated names and the stories and the plots that go into this. So now I'm really impressed and thinking, wow, not only know the language, but they know these classic stories like the back of their hand. This is really quite incredible. And so then, I'm sitting in the back just watching and seeing how our students perform. Then they actually talked about ancient Greek and Roman history and some of the actual, the emperors and the different philosophers and all the things that go into the classic world, and they would ask them questions about that, and our kids were just so amazing, and they would just beep those, and then they would talk and get the answers correct, and then just lead us on to victory. So I just want to let you guys know how impressed I was with what I witnessed on that day, and it was something that was, it was a great afternoon spent at Crown Point High School witnessing the talent of our students there in the realm of Latin, and I just want you guys to know you represent us so well, and you're seen and valued, and we appreciate all you do for Crown Point High School. We just really think you deserve this honor, and certainly you've shown just how impressive you are. So thank you, guys.
Dr. Terrell, you have anything you want to add?
Last thing, how many parents are out in the audience out there? We thank you so much for being here tonight and for supporting your kids. Guys, congratulations. We're amazed and appreciate you and the way you represent Crown Point and Crown Point schools. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, everybody stay put. You might need to come in a little closer, way closer for photos. Parents, come on up. Sorry, Jim. Sitting on your lap here.
We do want to say publicly thank you to Mrs. Worley, who works for the corporation, but also one of our chaperones. Parents who come and help us out and spend the weekend, give up their life and all the fantastic. Really thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. All right, you're free to go. Thank you. Congratulations again. Mr. Walker, I have your.
Well, 2022 state champs, want to come forward? Thank you for coming this evening, and congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. Saw Coach maybe a week or two before you guys headed downstate, and I think she was pretty confident that you guys were going to be winning. But you had a little, well, anything could happen, but you had to really feel good about the team's opportunity. Well, let me start by reading you your commendation. Resolution of commendation. The Crown Point Board of School Trustees is honored to commend the 21-22 Crown Point High School Gymnastics team for meritorious achievement. Be it hereby resolved that the Board of School Trustees for the Crown Point Community School Corporation wishes to express sincere congratulations to the 21-22 Crown Point High School Gymnastics team for being named the 2022 IHSA State Champions. The Board of School Trustees publicly recognizes this achievement, renders it permanently to its minutes to be preserved for public posterity, dated this 21st day of March 2022. Great job. Congratulations. I don't know this, but I'm assuming it's the first gymnastics state champion that Crown Point has ever had, correct? And I know that Valparaiso's been quite a hurdle over the last 2 decades, probably. I'm going to read your names individually. If you come up to receive your commendation, then we'll ask Coach for a couple words and give us a little explanation of what you guys all went through to bring home the state championship. Charlotte Ann's. Congratulations. L.A. Kiran. Congratulations. Alana Lockhart. Congratulations. Isabel Moons. Is that correct, Moons?
It's okay.
How is it?
Maunas?
Maunas?
Yeah.
Maunas. Thank you. Mickey Neal. Leah Fenner. Congratulations. Madeline Martell. Congratulations, Madeline. Lily Stolp. Congratulations. Sydney Reisman. Is it Reisman correct? Reisman. Sydney Reisman. Congratulations. Lily Anderson. Savannah Corin Kovacha. I didn't say that right. Kovac? Right, Korvac. Thank you. Bridget, Goodson? Godson. Bridget Godson. I should have did better on that one. That was not good. Danielle Kamleiter. Congratulations. Elena Lagos. Congratulations. Coach Amy Pish. Pesh. Pesh. Hey, Coach. Is Coach Autumn here? Okay. I'll hold on to these. So, Coach, how about Like I said earlier, I knew you had a confidence about you about bringing home the championship. Do you want to give us a little background on your team and how it all came together?
Right. I feel like I shouldn't be looking at them. They've heard all this over and over again. We just have a super strong team that came from last school year, and then we added in quite a few stellar athletes on the team this year. And pretty early on, probably October, November, when I was seeing what was ahead of me and in front of me, I thought, this is the year. It's going to have to be the year. So we're just going to go full steam ahead, and there's going to be no excuses, and we're going to bring it home. I knew that this would have to be the year. So it was a year, our hashtag was history making, record breaking, and that's what we did all year. We broke record after record over and over again. We broke the school record 12 times. We were 15-1. That's never happened. I have an undefeated team too. I don't really like to call them JV because they're like a reserve team, and there's 14 kids all together, and from the bottom all the way to the top, it's a true team, true unity, one purpose in mind and one goal in mind, and it started from the bottom up, and we were all on the same page, and we just went full steam ahead and broke record after record, like I said, won meet after meet, great things every time we were in the gym and at a meet, and it started with winning the dueling conference for the first time since 2005. We've only won the dueling conference once, and then we won sectionals, which was a first time ever for Crown Point Gymnastics as well. We compete in the hardest part of the state for gymnastics, for the sport of gymnastics. I always have a great team. I've been the coach for 21 years, and I've had a great team every single year. But it's really hard to get past, Chesterton and Valpo are usually the powerhouse with, it could be Portage one year, it could be Lake Central one year, could be us one year, but, it's really hard to be at the very top at the state championships. And we won handedly over Homestead, not even close. And then, Valpo was third, so that was pretty sweet because the only loss we had was at regionals, and it was at their place, on their terms, on their rotation. And we just had to kind of go with the flow that day. So we know that we did great. Every meet we competed in this year, it was just so exciting. This team has brought me so much joy and so many thrills I can't even say. It was definitely the best year I've ever coached and the most fun I've ever had with such a unified team. It was super fantastic, and we're so proud of all the girls, and we're so happy that we could bring it home back to the region, and it went to the ones in red, not the ones in green. Yeah.
How about a show of hands? How many seniors? Three seniors? Four?
There's 4. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, Coach. That's
Oh, it's okay.
4 seniors. Maybe you need to be back here next year.
I'm sure they can lend a hand. Yeah, of expertise and confidence that they brought to the team. That's for sure.
Well, you guys, amazing accomplishment, as Coach said, all the first and setting a standard. Like that's my point. 4 seniors on, and congratulations to them, and best of luck. And now everyone else knows what the hard work needs to accomplishment. We all know that there's a lot of hard work, and as Dr. Terrell said earlier, we all know that the parents contribute to a lot of hard work and travel and practices, and it's not easy, but I hope the reward at the end was worth it to everybody, because it's an honor for us to have you have a state champion.
I'm still pinching myself, that's for sure. Still on cloud 9. Still shedding a tear or two here and there throughout the day.
Mr. Marcinek, would you like to add anything about the team?
Just like to congratulate all of our girls and Coach Pesh on just an amazing accomplishment. It's no small feat to win a state championship in the state of Indiana. You guys accomplished that, and I just have to say that I was lucky enough to be able to watch you guys compete a few times this year, and also just in walking through the gym and seeing you guys practice. And I'm just amazed. It's such a physical sport. It really is. It's a physical sport with a lot of pounding, a lot of jumping, a lot of landing, a lot of moving around on the bars and then bouncing on the beam. And I've asked the girls a couple times, I even asked them when they're out there, I said, do you ever worry about falling? you know, when you're doing these amazing flips and going up, and I watch them, and I'm thinking, wow, look at how high these girls are. Do they ever worry? And they said, yeah, we do worry a little bit, but, you know, you just kind of got to do it, and you get past it. And I think that shows the mental toughness that goes along with gymnastics and the years of training that you guys put in and the coaching tutelage from Coach Pesh. So just how impressive that you all are in the training that you've been through, like Mr. Warney said. And you're a great example of the talent in our school, because not only are you fantastic athletes who achieve at a high level, but you guys are all fantastic students as well. And you make us very proud of everything that you do. And you're all pleasant, nice people that I enjoy seeing at school every day as well. So thank you for all that you do, and for Coach Pesh, and for all the work that you put in. But girls, we're so proud of you, and we really believe in you and think that you've done great things for Crown Point High School. And just, again, you're appreciated and valued, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Michael.
Mr. Warney does promise if you make it back next year, he'll have all your last names memorized. So
Right. And,
One more thing I don't want to leave out.
sure, here, Mr. Gillis mentioned we need to speak into the mic, otherwise it's just a void on.
Oh, no.
Trying to watch from home.
Okay, I just wanted to also say that Michaela Neal was a state vault runner-up with a 9.725, and Ellie Kieran was our first runner-up in the all-around ever in the history of Crown Point Gymnastics. I've been looking back and making sure that I keep track of the sport from in its inception in 1972, and she is the first runner-up in all these years.
Congratulations. Yeah, I think our athletic director, Mr. Derula, would have definitely been here to share this with you this evening, but he's at the State Athletic Director Conference right now, so he couldn't make it this evening.
any of the
Ms.
ladies
Rangel?
continuing on doing gymnastics in college?
It's a tough sport to go on.
No, I
with,
was just asking, I wasn't sure, so that's all. No, just-
How about Dr. Turrell, last words before
Sure.
we take our pictures?
Yeah, my wife and I had the opportunity to attend the regional meet and then also the state meet. And I can say that I went down on the floor and knew a couple of the individuals on the executive board for IHSAA who were all there, as well as, Brian, you might remember Kay Rankin. She has announced this meet for as long as she can remember. And their comments were about how great our girls were, your attitudes, the way you interacted with each other, with other teams. So we're so happy about the state championship, but that part is as big as anything. And I've got a confession to make. So we were there at regionals and saw that team in green pull it out. They were right in front of us on this rotation, and this meet went forever at the state meet. But that team in green was up on the,
They were on floor.
well, they were on floor, but the last one that you did on the
We were on
beam,
beam.
the
We were
beam,
on beam.
okay?
Yep.
And so one of them fell off the beam, right? And I did one of these, yes! And my wife like elbowed me like, you can't do that. Yeah, and I was like, if it had been basketball and they missed a free throw, we would have been cheering, right? So then I think they had a second one fall too, right? And kind of sealed the deal.
Oh, that was at state.
Yes, at state.
At state, yeah.
And at that point in time, I kind of got away with that one. So, ladies, congratulations. We're so impressed with you as far as being individuals and being young ladies and the way you represent our schools and our community. Thank you very much.
Okay, item 3, you have the public hearing. We have a motion to suspend the open meeting.
So moved to suspend the regular meeting and open the public hearing on the additional appropriations, the rainy day fund.
You have a second? Second. Moved by Mr. Angel and second by Mr. Babjack to suspend the regular meeting. And we'll begin with, do we have any patron comments for the public hearing? We do not. Oh, did I not vote? I'm sorry. All those in favor of suspending the regular meeting?
So moved? Oh, I'm sorry. Aye.
I'm glad someone else tripped this evening with me. Thank you.
Give me enough time.
All right, aye.
Insert foot.
Opposed? The motion carries 4-0 to suspend the regular meeting. Now move into the public hearing here. We do not have any patron comments as a part of the public hearing. We do not have any patron comments. 3.3 is the resolution 812 rainy day fund additional appropriation. Mr. Reese.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, the Department of Local Government Finance requires us to hold this public hearing and for any additional appropriations. Specifically tonight is for the rainy day fund in the amount of $750,000. It is for the purchase of Chromebooks for 3 grades to update those Chromebooks for those students. With that, we've also set it up so that these funds are being repaid from the textbook rental fund over the course of the next 4 years as parents pay that textbook rental fee that you'll approve in upcoming months for this purchase. So with that, I recommend the approval of the resolution for the additional appropriation for the rainy day fund in the amount of $750,000.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. You've heard the recommendation to approve Resolution 812, an additional appropriation to rainy day fund for a total amount of $750,000. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second?
Moved by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Angel. Any questions or comments from Mr. Reese? Mr. Reese, you weren't here, but I'm assuming you would know we did this a few years back, and it was the same setup to take advantage of the opportunity from the rainy day fund, correct?
That's correct.
Len, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And now we'll look for a motion to close the public hearing and resume the regular meeting.
Motion to close the public hearing and resume the regular meeting? Second.
Motion by Mr. Angel, second by Mr. Babjack. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 4-0, and now we will resume the regular meeting. Back to the regular meeting with item 4, patrons' comments. We do not have any patron comments this evening. We'll go to item 5, the consent agenda. Dr. Terrell.
Thank you. For your consideration this evening, we have 5.1, the minutes from our regular business meeting in February. 5.2, the approval of the memo understanding between Crown Point Community School Corporation and Pillars of Wellness. 5.3, approval to apply for and receive grant funds from the Crown Point in your board packet.
Thank you, Dr. Terrell. You've heard the recommendation to approve the consent agenda as presented. A motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Babjack
Second?
and second by Mr. Angel. Any questions or comments for Dr. Terrell?
Part of the consent agenda tonight was for the community foundations, covering the extra exam cost for families that might not be able to afford it. So just to thank you again to the community foundation for supporting our families here that might be in need of financial assistance, so they're not preventing a student from achieving success going on to the next levels, obviously with those advanced placement scores.
Absolutely.
Mr. Warning, I'm going to abstain from the vote as I have a family member by marriage that was retained on the personal agenda, so I think just to be safe, we'll abstain for conflict reasons.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Hoffman, we doing okay? All those in favor signify by saying, gotcha. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0, and Mr. Smith will abstain just to avoid any conflict issues on the agenda. Item 6, action items. We have the purchased student Chromebooks. Mr. Hardman.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Warning. This evening, I'm coming to you and seeking your approval to continue our refresh cycle for Chromebooks. We always refresh for bringing new Chromebooks in for incoming kindergartners. We always do ninth graders at the high school, so they will get the Chromebooks throughout their high school career. And then this year, we'll be looking also at the fifth grade refresh. So we're almost completely in the cycle right now. That will extend until Chromebooks are no longer the tool of choice and we move to something else. For this refresh, the cost or the vendor, ESI, Dell 3100 devices, these will all be touch screens. So that's another thing that is taking place over the course of time. All the devices will become touch screens for the students. This year, the ESI Dell 3100, the bid that came in was $733,728, and we're seeking your approval this evening to purchase these pending the approval of our rainy day appropriation by the Department of Local Government and Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Hartman. I've heard Mr. Hartman's recommendation to approve the purchase of 2,400 Dell 3100 touchscreen Chromebooks along with 2,400 Google Management License from Electronic Strategies at $733,728, pending the Department of Local Government Finance approval of the Rainy Day Fund appropriation. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Angel and second by Mr. Babjack. Questions or comments for Mr. Hartman? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. And Mr. Hartman, back to you for the out-of-country field trip to Spain.
Thank you again. This recommendation is for an out-of-country field trip for students taking Spanish, and this would occur during spring break of 2024. Currently, we've not identified a calendar for 2024 for that spring break. Tentatively, just looking at where it possibly would land, we're looking at somewhere between March 23rd, March 31st, once we identify the calendar. This trip will, to any student that meets the criteria that are listed there, will be traveling to Spain, spending approximately 8 days and then 10 days total with travel. One thing that we did add this year with the cost, if you recall, as COVID hit and we had some issues and things as far as getting refunds, we did go with a global plan plus that would then guarantee refunding up to 24 hours of any type of cancellation. So that's included in the cost this year. Seeking your approval for this out-of-country field trip to Spain.
Thank you, Mr. Hartman. You've heard the recommendation to approve the out-of-country field trip for the Crown Point High School students to travel to Spain during spring break of 2024. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Smith
Second?
and second by Mr. Angel. Any questions or comments for Mr. Hartman? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. And now we have the item 6.3 is to award MacArthur and Timothy Ball renovation bid packages. Mr. Reese.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight we bring before you two recommendations for the contracts for the two projects, the MacArthur additions and renovations, and also the Timothy Ball additions and renovations project. In opening those bids, we did, Skillman and the school corporation have worked with all the successful low bidders in a successful manner on previous projects. With that, we are recommending the approval of the bids contracts for MacArthur Elementary additions and renovations for a total of $22,925,578, and approval of contracts for Timothy Ball Elementary for $24,352,134.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. For the recommendation to approve the contracts for MacArthur Elementary School and additions and renovations as presented for a total of $22,925,578, and approval of contract for Timothy Ball Elementary School additions as presented for a total of $24,352,134. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Angel and second by Mr. Smith. Any questions or comments from Mr. Reese? And I noticed Mr. Caceres from Skillman Corporation joined us in the audience. I'm sure he would be happy to answer your questions if we have them for him.
Dion, it's probably a question for you. we try, like, when we're using obviously different contracts because of the bidding process, we try to tie together, like, the systems being used so that it's easier for stuff that might have to be done down the line, if at all possible?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We make accommodations for potential future renovations, tie existing into new.
Okay. Thank you.
At our last meeting, you had mentioned, the question came up, I think it's just about competition and, oh, yeah, we're back again. Mr. Gill mentioned that the mic is helpful. But the question came up last meeting, competition, supply and demand of labor right now and these jobs and how, I think they just asked in general how things were going for you, and you said quite well. And I noticed that a lot of different names are crossing here for work between the two buildings, right? So is that kind of shaking out as you expected it?
It's what we would have definitely liked, because you received 44 bids for MacArthur and 41 bids for 14 categories for Timothy Ball, which represents an average of 3 bids per category, which is great competition. So the short answer to your question is yes, this is what we would have reasonably anticipated.
Deanna, under what category do the like playgrounds fall, for example?
Well, playgrounds, actually the infrastructure, the asphalt, the curb work, the stone drainage would fall under the general trades bid category 1. So for Timothy Ball, that would be under Goff Incorporated, and then for MacArthur, it will be Larson Danielson. The actual purchase of the equipment and soft surfaces is going to happen at a later date as we consider all the playgrounds district-wide and focus on, you know, all the elementary schools.
I was looking over to make sure I didn't have any questions from earlier. Also, is anybody, any other questions? Okay. Yes, Mr. Hoffman.
I just wanted to comment that in light of the estimates and the small amount that the current numbers are above and beyond the original estimate, I think that's pretty remarkable in consideration of what's going on in our economy and the whole issue of supply and demand. So everybody who worked on that should be lauded for their efforts.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Any other comments? If not, we'll submit this for vote.
Just a correction, I think you said seconded by myself.
Got it. Ms. Green, this was a second by Mr. Babjack. Thank you. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Ms. Reese. Thank you.
If I
Yeah.
can add,
Yes, please.
as of today, the documents for Wheeler Middle School, additions or renovations, hit the street today, and we'll be opening bids April 15th. So assuming all that goes well, then we'll come before you at the April meeting to make recommendations for that project as well. Thank you.
6.4 is the approval of crowdfunding for the Vex Robotics team. Mr. Reese.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, with some excitement, we have identified, recognized that 2 teams each from the high school and both middle schools have qualified for the Vex Robotics World Championships. I think surprisingly to a lot of us, that there's some extensive expenditures that go along with that, and traveling with the robots down to Texas and also traveling for both teams. There have been some requests to do some fundraising for that via, in this case, Gofundme page. So with that, we bring before you, based on your board policy 8131, the 4 items necessary for you to look at the approval of crowdfunding for this endeavor. With that, the policy, as you can see, as I mentioned, we're going to use Gofundme. We're looking for $10,000 for the high school, $10,000 for Colonel Wheeler Middle School, and then $12,000 for Taft Middle School. Taft does have a few more team members than Colonel Wheeler. The platform and what that is what's going to happen. Say we need $10,000 for the high school, but only raise $5,000. What will we do? In some cases, you would turn back all the donations because you didn't reach your goal. In this case, what we're asking for is whatever donations we receive, we'll use to offset the cost, whether they go or don't go, and then not use, we put in their account and use next year for their Vex Robotics teams moving forward. And then also is a draft posting of the 3 messages to go along with on the page, so you can see what requests are actually being made on the GoFundMe page there. So with that, we've met all 4 of your requirements in the board policy 8131, and are asking permission to allow the 3 schools to start a GoFundMe page for their 2 Vex Robotics teams at each building.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. You've heard the recommendation to approve the proposal for our school buildings with Vex Robotics teams participating in the World Championship to be allowed to create GoFundMe.com pages to accept donations to offset their costs. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
That was moved by Mr. Smith
A second.
and second by Mr. Angel. Any questions or comments from Mr. Reese?
Just a comment in general that I know, Mr. Warner, you and I have spoken on numerous occasions about opportunities for those in our community, businesses, churches, just different entities that are always looking for ways to get involved in relationship with our school corporations to support our students. And this is an occasion that came across here tonight that I think this would be one that we need to get accustomed to. I imagine the World Championships are going to happen every year for us, depending, based upon the STEM and the robotics and the programs that we're building. But it exceeds, what the expectation for the school corporation to pay for their participation in the state level, the state-based programs that are equal with other programs that we have in our school corporation. And so I would invite anybody out there that may be listening that is looking for a need or way to partner with our school corporations to look at a long-term plan here for the robotics and STEM, and I'm sure there's some entities out there. So I just want to make that comment, and we're always welcome. We're always, have open minds and all ears to form that kind of partnership.
In this case, Mr. Reese, I feel like the answer is somewhere within here that I've missed, but is it one page that, or is it 3 individual pages? So is it the Chromebook High School has the 10,000. Is that, if I were to submit a donation to the GoFundMe page, do I need to pick where it is going, or is it going to be cumulative and that's where what the goals are?
It'll be 3 separate pages.
It is 3 separate pages.
Correct, one for each school, because then the money will be dispersed to that school and controlled, and that way we can reimburse for those legitimate expenses that any of the teams at each of the buildings might have. That's where we have the control over those donations coming in and making sure that the donations are used appropriately based on State Board of Accounts rules and regulations.
So it is very possible that one of the 3 could be fully funded through here, and one could come up 80% short, and there's not it is what it is.
That's correct.
Okay. And then, by any chance, does GoFundMe offer educational discounts? Because they do take a cut, correct? A small fee
They do take.
for
take a
educational
percentage.
purposes. Is there, do we get any relief for being?
Yeah, I don't know that answer. I'll have to check into that and get back to you.
I'm just curious. Seems like there's many opportunities out there when you're trying to fund a school project or something to better the children through education, that maybe there'd be a little bit of rate reduction. Any other questions? All those in favor?
I couldn't hear all of that conversation. Can you donate directly to the school?
Oh, did you hear the Mr. Hoffman's question? Could we donate directly to school?
Yes, I'm sure that with the account set up, we'd be happy to take that donation directly at the school.
Could you hear that, Mr. Hoffman? Yes, with the account being, once the account is set up, the school would be happy to take a direct donation.
Okay, thank you.
And yes, Mr. Smith, too, I from a school corporation standpoint, you hope to give all you can to all the school, the achievements that are out there, but in cases like this, I think we've talked in the past of not so much what we'd seen for ourselves, but what we've seen others do, and the amount of money, whether it be through alumni associations and business relationships, and these churches. There's many communities thrive on the community chipping in and contributing. So I do agree. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Reese, and everybody involved in trying to help these students gain some extra funding for their trip. Item 7.1, superintendent discussion groups. I think we could Mr. Smith, anything new from Cedar Lake?
No, there's just a project expansion. I think I talked about it last month at the intersection of 133rd and King Street. That seems to be the discussion of focal point beyond that, facades and TIF districts. They're restructuring the TIF district for the residential areas and having those types of discussion. I don't know if Dr. Terrell has anything. I think last month you may have indicated a meeting was coming up. I don't know if it happened yet or if you have anything to add to it.
So we've had a couple different meetings out there. One I spoke with at the Chambers luncheon and spoke with them, got some new information about a water tower they're getting ready to put up, which they feel will really expand some of the opportunities for further housing developments out there. We also have been working with help me get the name of it right, the Planning Commission from Cedar Lake as we look at MacArthur and the things that are happening there with making sure that all of our plans are in and approved as we're looking to start that work here the end of May, beginning of June. So we've got a couple more meetings coming up with them. So I feel like we're in a pretty good place with all of them.
But I know, Mr. Hoffman, you may be out of town, but have you had any word from the city or anything?
The RDC is pretty much business as usual, nothing exceptional at this time.
Okay. Anything to contribute, Mr. Angel, from Winfield?
Do not.
All right, how about Director of Elementary Education, Mr. Mears?
Thank you, Mr. President and board members. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank our administrators, our teachers and staff, students and their parents. We successfully completed the iRead 3 testing window administration that just wrapped up on Friday, and just want to thank everybody who contributed to a successful administration and then for good efforts of all of our students who participated in that assessment. We'll continue to work with any students who need any additional remediation, and we'll continue to address the needs of our students individually. Any questions on iRead 3? Okay.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mears.
I think we can, David's probably got kids that, the rest of us are past that stage at this point.
I mentioned that, I the very simple handout that did come home to explain, scores amongst peers, scores versus national, can you visualize the sheet that I'm referring to? This may not have been iRead, but an explanation of if we, as parents, if we could continue to get something so simple to show just, progression and where, children stand. Maybe you've been doing that forever, but as Mr. Angel said, now with kids in first and second grade, it's nice. It's a simple explanation of what's going on and where they, how they're doing.
Yeah, you may be referring to our NWEA middle of the year parent report that we're trying to provide, kind of a one-page document that shows growth from our beginning of year, middle of year, and then there will be another report that's sent home at the end of the year, so that we're kind of focused on our math and our reading for NWEA. The scores for iRead 3 are preliminary, so nothing has been sent home quite yet on iRead 3. Those scores just came out this morning.
Thank you. Director of Secondary Education, Mr. Gene Fermi.
Thank you, Mr. President, board members. First, I'd like to start with a comment about our Vex Robotics teams. What I did find out is the Worlds are a 5-year contract for the city that hosts it, so we'll be going to Dallas probably for the next 4 years. So, to Mr. Smith's point, this is a good time to start thinking about how we will help fund our teams in the future. But a point of good news here, Mr. Hardman did some research on one of our highability grants and did find that we will be able to help with the entry fees for all 8 teams, and it's $1,200 per team. So we're going to be able to cover that for them, get that money back into the team's travel and expenses that. So that was good news for our coaches today as we move forward with that endeavor. So we're really proud of those guys. I do think it was a situation where we were gaining momentum. COVID hit, we came out of COVID, and here we were. So I think we'll be way more prepared this time next year. Also, number 2, in our consent agenda, we approved an MOU for Pillars of Health. This is our second community mental health partner that we are partnering with for our students and families. And it's a really important piece as we kind of tier our supports for students and families that need that extra support. We also have a partnership with Crown Counseling. These are both local community partners that provide this type of service. It was kind of nice to see them work together as I was talking with Pillars of Health or Wellness rather, to come on board. Crown Counseling was right with them, kind of coaching them up, helping them out. So they're actually kind of working together, rivals working together, but for the betterment of our students and our community. So we do appreciate that approval, and we know it's going to benefit our students. We're going to start with this group at Colonel Wheeler, Jerry Ross, and Winfield. So appreciate that. And then finally, Wednesday is our Academic Law Days celebration. So hopefully anyone that can make it, you'll be there. You'll see a lot of those athletes and Latin students and all the folks that have been coming through here. They'll be getting recognized their senior year for some academic excellence. Any questions?
If I may jump in on that last comment that Mr. Gianfermi had, if you could, please let Diana know if you're able to attend that ceremony Wednesday night. That way we can make sure that we've got a place for you. And I think Mr. Smith did last year, but I think he had a selfish reason for being there too.
This year I don't. I said yes. So.
Okay.
I do need to know what time it starts. I don't.
6. Yep, 6 p.m.
I did speak to Ms. Green. I will not be able to make it on Wednesday, but Mr. Smith will be there, and anybody else, let Ms. Green know.
And the hors d'oeuvres in
Mr.
the
Angel probably
cafeteria
had
are back.
I know Mr. Angel had a run of 12 years of probably going.
I was at a few of them,
Yeah.
And I'm gonna still see if I can make it Wednesday. I like that one. That's a special.
Thank you, Mr. Gianfermi. How about around the corner, graduations already coming down the pipeline, right? Plans still tentatively to be the same as the last couple of years?
Yes, they will be. We're on
Excellent.
the football field. Nice shiny day. Good weather.
Yep. Yep. Perfect. Director of Exceptional Education, Ms. Paskus.
Good evening, President Warney, members of the board. Today is March 21st, which is also World Down Syndrome Day. So the 321 is that extra chromosome on the 21st chromosome. So with Brooke's help, we had a corporation Rock Your Socks Day. So it could be just crazy socks, mismatched socks. It's hard to see here now, but some of us here around the tables were participating in that day. So we have a lot of good pictures, and I think you'll be seeing those on social media and maybe some other local news organizations soon.
Thank you, Ms. Paskus. And we go on to Chief Academic Officer, Mr. Hardman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warney. I wanted to just share, we're in the process of looking at language arts resources at the elementary school and adopting that. Part of our review that we're into right now with the vendor is we're doing a field test. About 66 teachers are using the resource over the next month to kind of engage students in it and get some feedback as far as the use of it. Another thing that we're doing, because it's an English language resource with readings for learning the content readings, learning the skills, there's things in it that are about social studies and science and health and those kinds of things. We thought it would be a good idea that we notify parents the types of things that are in the resource. So there was an email that went out to all the elementary parents that gave an outline of all the content that was in it. And then this coming Thursday, we did invite parents to come to Winfield Elementary, hear a presentation, and get some questions answered. So that is all kind of just because of the way things are right now. We want to make sure that there's nothing hidden. And we want to present the material to our parents and give them a chance to explore it now as we move through our process. Hopefully, we'll bring a recommendation to you for an adoption as early as April on the 26th when it comes. So, any questions?
Not really a question, but I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like at some point in time in the last month, I may have owed a couple explanations back to board members. We had just a conversation just from the 30,000 feet above the idea of the curriculums that we choose as a school corporation, the amount of people in that world to pick from, and if you were to ever be unhappy with one, how the process may take place to make a change. I had a one-on-one conversation with a board member and Dr. Terrell. Dr. Terrell explained to me pretty good, but if either one of you could kind of give that to the board real quick, rather than me trying to piece it together.
So I've asked our curriculum department to kind of debrief on that so we can have a plan of an easy way of saying that. We're working through that. We were contacted by Representative Olthoff with some questions regarding that when the session was going on, and we've invited her to come up and meet with us so we can share that with them. But Mr. Hardeman, if you just want to hit the highlights of it real quickly of how people can come in and review and if they have concerns.
Sure, absolutely. We do have policy that does address this. So when a parent would like to come in and, we're going to call it inspect in curriculum. So that would be something that they want to come in and inspect that we currently have. Policy is pretty much outlined that they come into a location that we have set up, and we actually do it here in Art Kiwa's office. We have a computer set up there. We have a large screen where they can come in and see the digital, because we have so much of it digitally. And then we also will print material, and the parent needs to be very specific in what they want to see, and then we make it available to them. There is a form that they complete for us that they will sign off, and if they have questions regarding the curriculum that they want to put on that form, then once they are finished, they submit it to me, and then if there are questions or concerns that need further explanation, then we will get in touch with them. So that's kind of the process for an inspection of any of our material. And we have had just a few. I mean, this year we had a few for some health related things. We had someone come in and wanted to explore the next grade level curriculum for their children coming in, and they came in. We're very hesitant. We don't, no pictures, no copies. It's all things that we are very much trying to keep confidential and protect the materials that we do have. We also make sure that there is someone in the room that they're in, kind of overseeing it, but it's really a proximity kind of a thing, so that there is none of that taking place when they're here to explore or to inspect the curriculum.
I asked a question also, and I'm trying to take the opportunity while we're all together to ask a couple questions. So now let's say you're at a level and teacher is providing worksheets and something very simple like, of these 4 sentences, which one contains an adverb? And it's ABC or nothing above. And the 4 sentences that are created in today's day and age, 25 years ago, all those sentences were created by the teacher, and the teacher right next door could have had 4 different. They were all teaching the same subject in their own way. In today's day and age, with the curriculums that we have, are those questions provided to the teachers more often than the teachers making the questions themselves? Or, yes. And that's the pretty definitive yes.
Yes.
So the odds, if we have,
Well, there's a couple of things that take place. When we purchase a resource, such as the one we're exploring right now, that would be the curriculum that all the teachers at elementary school grade level would be using. Therefore, the materials, the questions that would be asked would be the same across the district. Could a teacher, based on their class, want to add other questions because they're doing some additional assessment in the classroom? Absolutely, they could, and those could be different. Even though I think with the setup at both the high school, middle, and elementary, we call them professional learning communities, you might call them grade level teams, that the teams should be together on anything that might be different or new, that they should come to agreement so that they're all using that at the grade level at the school when those things do occur. So I think the materials that we have really does tighten it up, but there is flexibility based on your students and what their needs are and what you want to know about the child and what they're learning.
So we're firing off questions, so it's always difficult. But in that circumstance where a teacher would be able to create a question, draft a question, a parent comes in and says, "I wish to see the curriculum." Perhaps it's those questions that are causing discomfort or issue that they want addressed. How would the administration know before this product or these questions or these assignments are being handed out to the students, or would they not? And the only way that it would be raised is if somebody calls attention to it.
I would probably say to you that that would be the case in that situation, since it's not in a resource. And if the teachers are creating something, and they go online, I mean, you can go online and you can find questions that target what you want to be able to target. If they put it within the learning management system, of course, we have a record of that, and would be able to go back to that and be able to discuss it with the parent, and get in. Wouldn't necessarily want to have the teacher be part of that discussion, but would be able to go to those teachers and to get some background on what the questions were, what they were for, why they were being used, where did they get them from. So that would be the process that we would do in the event that were the case.
If I might jump in too, I think one of the keys is while we do have these resources for our teachers, we still expect them to be the professionals within their classrooms, and they utilize those resources, but still, depending on what's coming up, what's happening that day, maybe that class period, they make changes and adjust those as well. So if there are concerns, Mr. Smith, as you brought up, I think that's one of the keys is to reach out to the administrators at the building, to the teacher, try and go that avenue first and hear from them, and hopefully that can be cleared up there and they can understand concerns. If not, then take it to that next step and involving the principal, and then from there to here, so that we can look at those situations. You know, I think one of the things that I would encourage parents to do is to make sure you're having those conversations with your children about what is happening in school. There are going to be times where things are presented that as a parent you may not agree with, but it's a great opportunity for you to sit down with your child and have a conversation about why you don't agree with them. We always talked about that. It was great to have those conversations when they were coming home and eating dinner with us, rather than when they went away to college and now they're 4 or 5 hours away and we don't have that opportunity to have that influence on them. So I think it's a great way just to understand the diversity that is taking place, but yet to be able to have those conversations.
Thank you. I think it's always the conversation you and I had was helpful, and some of the technology is so powerful. You could talk about 120 kids in the second grade at a elementary school, and if they're all taking questions on an electronic platform, and the teachers collaborate to find out that 90 kids missed the same question, well, we have an issue with teaching that problem if they're all using a uniform set of questions. So that's a little, I don't know, not that we all necessarily feel old, but just everything's changed so fast from having, whatever McGraw-Hill, or you take home this 400-page book that everybody learned out of throughout the whole school district, where all the little, at the end you read a chapter and they all had questions at the end. Well, we all knew we were looking at the same questions. I sometimes just lose grasp of how much that has changed in the world today with maybe this curriculum provider might provide 1,000 different questions that are all rotating, where Scott and I could be in the same class and not even see the same question. But can we pick out the adverb? And so the conversations, I think, help us as a board member understand just evolution of education and what technology is doing.
To your point, the one step that even takes it further is we have tests and assessments now that our kids take that, depending on how you answer the question, will steer you in another direction, as opposed to how Scott answered his question and go to another. That's some of the information you're receiving back from the NWEA assessments. And one of the great things about that is how it personalizes what we know about each kid, each student.
And there's a balance there too, because not everything is technically curriculum is what
Absolutely.
I'm hearing. And I don't know if parents always, including myself, as a parent of 4, always know the balance there. What is curriculum versus what is a teaching or an education or something that the teacher is constructing. And you don't want to quash the innovative teaching of the teachers. That's what makes it great. I hated books. So for me, if books are considered curriculum, throw them away, because I'm a logic and reasoning guy, right? I like to someone express and teach me real life examples, and that's how I learn. So, I mean, it's all a balance. I understand that. You know, these are tough questions, but I think it's an important discussion and conversation to have in front of the public so they can hear this and understand this. And as a parent, you will have concerns, and I appreciate you, Mr. Hardman, sharing the process, and Dr. Terrell, that, hey, we will address it. You can ask a question and raise a concern, and it will be discussed and addressed, and just follow the protocol. Start with the teacher, the building leader, and before you call Mr. Hardman screaming. That would help the administration a great deal, so.
The curriculum review process that we have in place, how long has that been in place?
Well, I've been here for a long 20 years,
So-
21 years, so, I mean, it's developed over time, I
Right.
think.
But it's not something that we put in place as a result of legislation passed or anything?
Well, there
like
was
that?
legislation that, I think there is some guidance now, but there was some pretty tight legislation prior to the current times. It was pretty much that you were driven by the textbook adoption timeline. It was a 6-year thing, and those were the only times you could adopt. That's been relaxed now. Crown Point, we have our own adoption kind of a timeline that we want to do. But we want to make sure that when we have a committee that we involve teachers, we have administrators on it, we want to get feedback from parents. I think the field test is something that we've added just recently into the decision, which has been really good. We basically started that last year, and it really exposes the curriculum.
But the transparency to the curriculum has been available
Yes.
for a long time?
Yes, absolutely.
And you guys actually have board policy that has addressed that for years and years, so.
Right. So my point being, it's not something we've had to add recently.
That is
because
correct.
of current.
And that was the conversation I had with Representative Olthoff, was just that this isn't new, and the problem that was presented to the assembly wasn't new. We have this kind of like speaking at board meeting isn't new. I mean, they passed a new statute for it, but we've always done it that, yeah.
People haven't wanted to speak until recently. So
Correct.
now it gets used a little more.
Appreciate that little sidetrack. I wanted to, opportunity to have those conversations there. Thank you, Mr. Hardman. Chief Human Resource Officer, Mr. Kiwa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Board members, just two items to report on this evening. Just a general update on the interview processes are going well for our open positions. That would be positions we might be adding, and positions we're learning that are becoming available due to, retirements and resignations. So I just thank you to all of our staff members out there, especially our great leaders in this room that have been driving some of those processes. Interviewing's enjoyable because we get to speak to some pretty high-quality candidates out there. So it's been going great so far. And secondly, we're at a great point here in our Teacher of the Year, Employee of the Year, Administrator of the Year process. We're finishing up each building's voting on who their representative will be to go to that final step of the Teacher of the Year award here in Crown Point Community School Corporation. So we're looking forward to moving from nomination to selection for the building, and then after spring break, having those interviews to kind of narrow down those finalists. So thank you to our entire school community for nominating so many great individuals, and then our individual schools that have selected their candidates to represent each building for the process going forward. That's all I have for you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kiwa. And Mr. Reese from the Business Office.
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Director of Communications, Ms. Allen.
Thank you. After spring break, about a week after spring break, we're going to start a new program called Coffee and Conversation. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's coffee and conversation. This is an opportunity for community members to meet with Dr. Terrell and just chat about anything, questions they have, comments, concerns, whatever that might be. There's no set agenda or presentation for the hour. It's just come and chat. So this will be April 13th at 9:30 in the morning at the Crown Point Library.
News. Thank you, Ms. Allen.
And we'd love to have any of you that want to join as well.
For security or just general purpose?
Oh, no, we're bringing Dave Colson for security.
I had to throw that out.
I think we discussed rotating a board member at those meetings with you.
That'd be great, yeah. So we were trying to spread it out around the community, so we're gonna start with the Crown Point Library, but then we're also gonna look for a location in Winfield, and then another one in Cedar Lake before the school year is out, just to provide that opportunity for conversations. Yep.
Where is that going to be? Who is that going to be marketed to, or where will the community find out that they could participate?
We will put it on our website as a pop-up, social media, we'll create an event for it, we'll put it in our newsletters, all of the typical ways we
Like
normally do our outreach.
The school newsletters will have some there.
Yep.
Sounds great. Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Terrell.
Yeah, so I want to thank Mrs. Allen and her leadership with our Super Things series. You saw Solon came out with the ukuleles. Our next one will be coming out, I believe, is the high school. So be watching for that in the next couple of days here. And again, just really talking about the many great things as we hear tonight, and you hear all these different things that are happening in our corporation, just other opportunities. And what we intend to do with this then is create a catalog where you can go, and if you have people who are new to the community or are thinking about coming in, even businesses that are thinking about coming to our community, they can start to really see what Crown Point Schools is all about and some of the great things that are taking place. Had great feedback from the first one that we put out, and we look forward to more with that. The other thing I'd like to just highlight tonight is our community support for our kids is just amazing. From people shooting off fireworks as state championship teams come back into town, to our first responders escorting teams out of town and back into town, to the St. Patrick's Day Parade the other night, and the gymnasts were there on the trolley being celebrated there. Signs as you continue to see. It's just a wonderful thing to see the community support for our kids and for the efforts that they put forward. So we appreciate that, and please know that it doesn't go unnoticed.
Thank you, Dr. Terrell. Other business, the Board of School Trustees. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to kick around this evening? Yes, Mr. Hoffman.
I forwarded Dr. Terrell an email received from Julie Slavens, kind of addressing my situation tonight. But it appears that we can adopt a policy that would permit us to have a board member participate in a meeting and be eligible to vote. And so I think that's something we should probably take a look at, because from time to time, each of us may be called out of town, and we're all pretty conscientious about trying to participate in the meetings. If that can be done feasibly, I think we need to attempt to do that.
I think it's a good conversation, Mr. Hoffman. We mentioned a little bit earlier, Dr. Terrell and I were speaking about it, and so the understanding is that you could still participate via Zoom through a vote as long as you have to have a quorum present. So we could have 3 people present, 2 people remote. If we have a policy in place to allow them to vote, that'd be acceptable. I don't know if I don't want to be taken the wrong way on my thoughts. I'm very comfortable with that with our current board. I've gotten to know y'all really well, and I'm not 100% sure it's the best idea for all situations. So I have a very, very, very small opinion here, but something worth considering. As long as your participation this evening, you can't vote, but you're a board member who cares and took the time to join us, which is why I don't mean to sound like I put you on the spot sometimes during the meeting, but I want to acknowledge that you're here throughout the meeting when I say, hey, Mr. Hoffman, you have any thoughts or whatever, because you are taking the time to join us this evening when you really don't have to. Is anybody, are there, I could, as we move forward, we could kind of decide one way or the other, and I would almost support anything, but
Yeah,
it's just,
if we've learned anything in the last 2 years, it's we can accomplish an awful lot via Zoom and WebEx, and, we've all had to do it. It's just as efficient. I like the concept of having a rule where it can only be so many people remote, because we need to show up. But the attendance of this group has been very good. So why not allow something like that where Mr. Hoffman can vote? Because it could be me getting called out of town for work, or any one of us, and we do want to attend these meetings. So
definitely something we should consider, and I'd be all for it in the right circumstances.
Well, how about,
I think one of the issues is that we have to talk to the tech department, because as I went back through the information, I think it requires the audience to be able to see the person attending virtually. So I don't know if we've got the technology to be able to do that through our current equipment, or whether it would require adding additional equipment.
Yeah, Tom, we currently have that technology opportunity available to us right now, so it would not require any additional technology or purchases along that way.
I think preliminarily, I mean, I didn't give any thought before tonight, but I think the question would be asked, are we more effective by having a 5-person board vote on an issue, even if one is remote? Or are we better off having a 4-person board and having, when we're out of town, we just don't show? I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, what's a more effective policy? So I think it's important to show up and have as many people at the board meetings present in person as you can have. But the realities of life is that, I mean, historically, if I was gone in July, I wasn't going to the July board meeting. Maybe that's not the best move. Maybe we should have our elected people and representatives here away, or create a mechanism for them to appear and vote on the issues. So I'm a little bit like you, David. I don't have any hard lines, just right there, but my thought is, I think the policy needs to be thought through and revisited.
So
sounds good.
we could bring a policy to you at the next board meeting for your review, and obviously with that as an action item, and ask you for discussion again at that time. So that way you'll have enough time to kind of talk through it, think through it, and then at our April meeting, have the opportunity to decide if you want to bring it back for a second reading, if you want to make changes to it, if you want to forego the second reading and adopt it. We'll bring it to you, and just know that those will be the options that are there before you, and you can have that further conversation at that time.
that sounds great.
All right.
Part of that email that I sent to Dr. Terrell did include a draft resolution, and maybe, Todd, you could forward that on to the rest of the board members.
I will do that.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing that forward, Mr. Hoffman. How about any other business, or?
The only thing I'd like to mention is thank you to the powers that be and with our legislative bodies down to the state, and making sure House Bill 1134 didn't go any further than it needed to go from the perspective of us trying to educate our kids in our community. So kudos to that for ending up where it ended up.
I'd like to just revisit what Dr. Terrell said about the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I think it fits best here. Our community is a special community, and I had the opportunity to walk in that parade with the Junior Bulldog football program, and it's absolutely insane. That whole downtown was just packed, 15, 20 people deep, all the way around the square, but it's up and down the road. So kudos to the mayor, because I think he had that vision for St. Patty's Day Parade maybe 3-4 years ago, and it's really grown into something. But I think we may be missing opportunity, although we did recognize the state champions, the gymnastics team. But I think we're missing an opportunity for maybe more showcase for our school corporation by not being more involved if possible. And I know all the coaches and the parent and everybody's like, oh, geez, here. But I do think, does anybody know a marching band? We should probably have a marching band there if we can, and have that discussion about how do we facilitate into our community a little better from a school corporation. It's one thing that just dawned on me is, I think we're missing some opportunities. I know Anastasia was there. How great would it be to have a float for the parade for that year coming up into the future, just to market the ticket sales and market what the high school's doing. And the whole parade was just lined with kids. I mean, just 3-year-old all the way up to 10-year-olds, And so it's just an outreach to these young kids that are coming to Crown Point High School. And I know there's children from outside the community too, but just to show another opportunity to show the great things that we're doing in our schools and the opportunities available to the children as they come up through the school corporation. So that's just something that dawned on me, and I felt it would be appropriate to comment here.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Anything else? Anybody else? Let's see what we have next. Board statements, appreciation, recognition. Mr. Smith, we come back to you for any statements of recognition this evening.
I have a lot to say tonight. Anastasia, what a great play. I think, Dr. Terrell, you had a chance to see it, and what an incredible team over there, that they do an incredible job. So I want to commend all Mr. Gloff, Mr. and Mrs. Degenhart, and all the others over there, the band that's down under, the orchestra. I mean, how they just time up the music and the play. It's fascinating. But there was a scene that had a train. I don't know, for those who saw it, that just blew my mind, how they just created this set, and this train is moving and as they're rotating it, and it really just stuck out. To me, it was amazing. It was fascinating. And just that a high school performance could put that kind of stage together and that kind of timing was really, really impressive. And so I just want to, as always, I just want to commend everybody involved in that, and the students were amazing, and they had little children. First time I've seen it in all the performances I've been to that were, I don't know, Dr. Terrell, what do you think? They were like 5 to 9 years old that they're on there. So what an opportunity for these kids to get experience, and they did a great job. So just an amazing show.
Thank you. Mr. Babjack?
Nothing from me tonight.
Mr. Angel?
I don't have anything myself.
Sorry, neither do I. We'll mention, I don't know, just because some stuff does get lost, Dr. Terrell, not to put more on your plate, or maybe ask Ms. Green, but for a little while, we had the folder going back and forth, just, not that we necessarily mentioned it in a meeting, just so you will receive thank you letters from someone you did something for. Ms. Green, if we could still share that with the board, I always thought it was kind of neat to, maybe we wouldn't even mention it in a meeting, but to know that, something happened with an administrator and somebody wrote a thank you letter to them and it touched their family, and I liked flipping through that in the past, and not trying to add any work to anybody if it is, but if it's something easy to do, that I'd appreciate it. So, before we close up this evening, any last thoughts? Otherwise, we'll look for a motion to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Angel. Second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.